show you a recipe today that is a chicken and rice recipe. It follows my 7-ingredient formula, which I have worked out so that I can substitute whatever food is convenient for our family. So protein is protein, fat is fat, starch is starch, vegetables and fruits can all be interchanged. So the amounts that I use for each one are going to be the same regardless of the vegetable. The exception to that is spinach. I only use a half cup of spinach because it is so heavy in nutrients, and in fact if I were going to use another vegetable I would just add it on top of that. I never go without the spinach. It's kind of like the multivitamin that I put in every time. The other ingredient that I always include, it's a fruit, but it's also got calcium, vitamin D, and vitamin C, which are things that are otherwise hard to come by. So I always have a cup of orange juice as a liquid. But if I wanted to add another vegetable or a fruit, those are interchangeable. Today I've got chicken and rice, and I'm going to use coconut oil. Coconut oil is solid at room temperature. And so if you're serving this meal cold or room temperature, or a little slightly chilled, air conditioned room temperature, it might be thicker than it would be if it's warm. So if you're going to use this in the continuous feeding pump, you want to make sure that you're serving it warm. The coconut oil that comes in these big jugs from Costco, it's great, except it's really hard to get out. So I run it under, this doesn't have a whole lot left in it, but when it gets low and it's hard to scrape out, I run it in a sink of hot water and I let it kind of sit in there, and that's enough to warm it up so that it's liquid and I can pour it, and it blends better that way rather than sticking to the edge of the blender. So let's get started. So I'm just going to put everything in here together, and then I'm going to add water to the 1500 line. My recipes all make all that Jack needs for one day. So I blend one time every day. I put everything in that adds up to 1500 calories, and then I add water until it's 1500 milliliters. So he's getting a 1-to-1 ratio, 1 calorie per mil ratio. So if your child needs only 1,000 calories or 1,200 calories, you could still use this recipe and just use that portion of it. Or maybe your child needs 1,000 calories plus more water than that. So you can adjust it as you like. Okay, so, and I'll post this recipe online when I post this, okay? All right, so we're gonna start with a cup of chicken. And I don't use the skin. This is a little piece of skin that did not get picked off earlier. But I do use like the liver and heart and anything else that comes with it. They're really high in iron, and so that's great. We want that. It's like a little bonus. They are also high in protein, so we keep it with our protein. It's just like a little bonus. There we go. Let me take the skin off. Here we go. Skin doesn't blend super great, and it doesn't contribute anything nutritionally, so I'm going to put that in. I don't care too much about getting perfect amounts, because it's kind of like, you know, your other kids might eat a lot one day and not eat as much the next day. It's going to vary, and the nutrition content of food naturally varies anyway, so we really can't get too strict about it unless you're on a special diet, in which case you could totally do this on a gram scale. I would do about 5 ounces protein if that were the case. Then I'm going to put in my rice, which is a 1.5 cups of rice. This rice has been cooked and chilled. Let me use my half cup here. It's been cooked and chilled. When you have a grain, especially oatmeal or rice, or even a tuber like potato, you want to cook it ahead of time and then blend it cold. If you blend it hot, it will keep absorbing liquid. But if you blend it cold, it will not absorb liquid, and it will blend up nice and smooth. So that's what you want to do, is chill it ahead of time. I make a whole bunch of rice and then I save it, or I might even freeze it. You can totally use it frozen as long as it's not a solid block. So, okay, chicken, starch, oil. I do a half cup of oil, and you could do this in the dry measure cup. I'm going to do it in the liquid measure cup, but not for any particular purpose. There is a slight difference. but we don't care about slight differences. We're not trying to be too exact here. Okay, it's much easier to work with when it's in liquid form. And then we need our spinach, which we're going to do a 1/2 cup of spinach. Or if you're doing fresh spinach, this is frozen. If you're doing fresh spinach, you would do maybe a whole cup or 3/4 of a cup packed. Or you could do kale or, you know, any dark leafy greens will work, or even lettuce in a pinch. Okay. Then a cup of orange juice. Let me shake this up so the vitamins get in there. A cup of OJ, calcium and vitamin D and vitamin C, all combined in the easiest form for each of those things to be absorbed. That's important, is that they are best absorbed in this acidic form. So that works out great. That's, you know, 3 supplements that you don't have to buy. I'm going to add an apple, and I can just cut it into giant chunks because my Vitamix is cool like that. And let's see here. Get that going on. What else? Oh, so I've done my fruit and veg and my apple, and I'm going to add, the last ingredient is salt. A 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Is super important. This is iodized salt, and iodine is important for brain development, and we should all be getting enough iodine in our diet, but especially children. And if you're blending food and you're trying to do whole foods, you may not have enough sodium in that blend. So that's a really important, you know, the rest of us get more sodium than we really need, and so we're sort of trained to think, oh, gotta, you know, keep the sodium down, that'll be more healthy. But you do need some sodium, and a whole food diet wouldn't necessarily have some in it. There's probably some sodium added to the chicken. I did season it myself, but it also probably had some sodium from the processing that it went through, and the rice had a little bit of sodium in it when I cooked it. But, you know, obviously there's still room in his diet for more sodium. So a 1/2 teaspoon a day meets that requirement and gives him that necessary iodine. Okay, so water. So 1,500 mils. And this will blend up really nicely. Okay. I'm going to turn this on, but before I do, I'm going to put on my ear protection because I, about 2 years into blending every day, I started getting tinnitus, which is like a ringing in your ear, and that is super annoying if you've ever had that, and you wonder, will you ever sleep again? And so we don't need less sleep, you know, most of us. So I started wearing ear protection, and it really helps. So I highly recommend that if you're, you know, around this kind of loud machinery every day. So here we go. It's gonna be 3 minutes on high. So we're gonna start out just on low. And we'll work our way up. The cold stuff is making the coconut oil solid again. But it'll warm up in a minute. Okay, so it finished blending. We gave it 3 solid minutes on high. Sometimes I have to watch the clock because it seems like surely 3 minutes is up by now. But it's important that it be extra smooth, and the longer blending time makes it warm, which helps everything blend up nice and smooth, and the coconut oil stays liquid. I wanted to go over the recipe with you again. I'm going to post it underneath, but I have counted 7 ingredients. I just, you know, I don't know, I blanked. Chicken, 1 cup. Rice, 1.5 cups. Olive oil, 1/2 cup. OJ, 1 cup. Spinach, 1/2 cup. Apple, 1. Salt, 1/2 teaspoon. And water to the 1500 line. Okay, so now we're going to strain it. I always strain. I never ever don't strain. If I don't strain, I'm asking for trouble. So Normally I would strain it into this, but since I've already made his blend for the day, I just wanted to show you. This is like a pancake measuring cup type thing, pancake batter thing. It has a lid and it has markings on the side with measurements. This blend makes about 6.5 cups, so this is a really handy size, I find, for working with these ones. If I'm packing it to go to school, I put some in here. Jars now come with plastic reusable lids. Who knew? I mean, I hung onto those rusted metal rings and lids for so long. I like the wide mouth quart jars. That's what I'm putting in today, is a wide mouth quart jar with these reusable plastic rings. Okay, so here's my strainer. It's got to have a fine mesh strainer, and it should go right through without any residue. Maybe a little bit of fiber from the apple and the spinach, but it should go right through. The coconut smells great. Okay. This takes a little practice. It's definitely easier to do it all in one container. Less mess, for sure. So it's straining something out. Something is in there. Might be the seasonings that were on the chicken. Might be the apple peel. It might be that the coconut oil is solidifying. This is how I tap it out so that it comes out of my strainer without making a mess, huh? Okay. So when all is said and done, I just want to show you, it's really important that we strain, because this is what came out of there. Look at that. It's got the seeds of something in there. Maybe there was an apple seed that didn't come out. Anyways, we may never know, but we know that this blend will have no trouble going through the continuous feeding pump, but it would also be good in a straw, maybe not the best flavor, but sippy cup or something. I mean, it just tastes like, like maybe a coconut curry soup, like a rice and chicken, The spinach is not a strong flavor, but it's smooth and it's not very thick. You can kind of see it's kind of drippy, and so yeah, that is my rice and chicken blend. You can substitute any of those ingredients, and I'm going to be making some more of these videos with substitutions. All right, thanks for watching.